You can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly. Like, we'd have way better CGI if it was fake.
Today I was at Princess Street in Cottesloe filming at 3 elevations. The first one is here at the top of the hill at 32 metres elevation. The second one is halfway up the hill at 16 metres elevation. And the third one is down at the bottom of the hill at 10 metres elevation. All the elevations include the 1 metre tripod height. First, let's talk about compression, or foreshortening is another term you can use. The higher our elevation, the more of the island from the shore to the lighthouse we can see. This gives the illusion that the height from the shore to the lighthouse is greater or higher. This effect is nothing more than foreshortening. At the lower elevation, the same amount of land is being squeezed into a smaller viewing angle. Hence the term compression is sometimes used to describe this effect. Here, at the higher elevation, we see all the way down to the shore with nothing being obstructed. Notice the terrain from the shore right to the lighthouse seems to be about the right height of 46 metres. Remember, from the lighthouse to the shore is actually 5 kilometres. The lighthouse is 5 kilometres inland. So there is a 5 kilometres of depth in the terrain of the island. It's not like we're looking at a 46 metre brick wall right on the shoreline. There is hills and terrain that goes from the shore right up to the lighthouse, 5 kilometres away. Tall objects, like the lighthouse itself, have no depth or very small amount of depth. They're only, 3 metres wide, so to speak. So we don't see any foreshortening there. The object has to have some depth to it in order for foreshortening to take effect. As we zoom back out, you can see I'm just past the intersection at the top of the hill. This is now Bathurst Lighthouse, which is 20 metres in building height and sits on a 14 metre hill. Incidentally, all the boats you see are for the Rottnest Island swim, which was actually on today. Of course, I normally would be swimming in the event, like I've done every year, but I had a sore hammy this year, so I had to pull out. I'm joking, of course. I'm way too scared of sharks to go in there. The cottage you see on the left is the Bathurst Lighthouse Keeper's Cottage. Take note here of the land between the cottage and the shoreline. It's important to note that the shoreline seems pretty clear. I can't see any mirroring there at all. The dark object inside the red circle there is higher than the waterline. This is important to note for the next footage. As with the Wajimup Lighthouse, the size of the hill Bathurst Lighthouse sits on seems to be about correct. I'm pretty comfortable that we are seeing all of the hill here. And again, we zoom out to reveal we're at the higher location. We're on top of the hill. Alright, so let's now look at the footage from 16 metres, which is halfway up the hill of Princess Street in Cottesloe. Again, we're looking here at Bathurst Lighthouse. This time, look at the dark object inside that red circle again. We already see evidence of mirroring occurring here. So even at 16 metres elevation, we see this mirror effect. Now here's where it gets really interesting, to me anyway. The expected hidden for this elevation is 1.41 metres to 2.57 metres, depending if you use the Mick West calculator or not. And if you look at this mirroring zone, doesn't it seem to match up? Doesn't the amount seem to match up to about 1.41 to 2.57 metres nicely? Could it be that curvature is actually the mirroring? Is the bottom of objects being obstructed caused by this mirroring effect? And does the mirroring seem to match the Earth curve calculator? Maybe this has been done on purpose. Who knows? Inside the red rectangle there, we have evidence of mirroring already occurring, even though we're at 16 metres elevation. As we zoom out to reveal, I am halfway up the hill at 16 meters elevation. Alright, here we have the shot from on top of the hill on the left and from halfway up the hill on the right. So higher elevation on the left, halfway up the hill, a bit lower on the right. The dark object circled is a clear example of mirroring occurring. Found this quite interesting considering we are at quite a high 16 meter elevation. The mirroring doesn't just happen at the lowest elevation. Okay, let's have a look down at the bottom of the hill now, 10 meters elevation. In this footage, you'll see lots and lots of examples of mirroring. It is the mirroring that is causing the obstruction. The dead giveaway here is that wavy horizon line. That's not waves you're seeing. The ocean today is dead flat and quiet, perfect for the right hand swim. That's the mirroring zone that YouTubers like Wide Awake talk about all the time. Alright, let's digress for a sec. Here is Wide Awake explaining better than I can how this mirroring works with his latest video he's just produced.
A little further away, a lot of times it starts right at the Bayport rack, which is 3.5 miles. Other times it continues to show more water. Or the boats just right on that same water line and stay on that same water line and just continue to get smaller and smaller and smaller. Now you watch these boats right here. I'm trying to track a couple of them, and also I'm looking at the water, the wake that the boat produces, and look how it's reacting to this mirroring, the mirroring on each side of it. Also, you can see how this water is just kind of blending right into the mirror. And that's what these boats do, is once they get into the mirror, it starts to hide them. How does it hide them? Within its own reflection, in plain sight. It's right here. It's all right in front of me. And I can't believe I overlooked this footage because it was actually really good footage. It was actually a rainy day or a hazy day, and like I said, this mirroring starts closer to me because there was so much humidity in the air, not in the water, but in the air. And when this occurs, we get this major heavy mirroring effect that really starts off. It cuts the water line off. That visible water, you can see it, but look at the boat beyond. And then you see it's a reflection. You see its reflection underneath the boat, and that's why bottoms of the boat vanish bottom up. They do vanish, but it's not because they're going over the curve. Because if so, then the curve started out really, really close to me this morning, and I can't see the size of Earth changing just for me. So I noticed this in a lot of my footage, that this mirroring effect always occurs. And it always occurs just above the visible water line. And you want to know why you cannot see nothing else in the back? Because everything's being mirrored. The water is just mirroring the sky once it gets past the visible water. This is the invisible mirror. It's an atmospheric mirror. It actually it's like taking a mirror at the end of your vision or your horizon, and it ain't even at the horizon because the horizon's much higher. I'm looking down. I'm looking down at this boat, not looking straight out at it. So the water that's visible is way below my eye level. And when you start watching these, you learn. And this is what I've been doing for about 3 years now. Okay, I think I started out.
Okay, back to my footage, and when you zoom in with an infrared camera, it gives you much more detail than the naked eye. You can actually see through the water at times because this is the edge of the mirror. Everything in this zone will be a mirror reflection of itself. Because at this lower elevation, the viewing angle is less. the water appears as a mirror. So all along the shoreline there, you see many examples of mirroring that is causing the shoreline itself to be obstructed. If this was obstruction due to a bulge of water from Earth curvature, it would look like this on the screen now, with the water coming right up to the object it is obstructing. Now on the left here, we have the middle elevation shot of Bathurst Lighthouse, halfway up the hill at 16 meters elevation, and the top of the hill observation on the right, where I was 32 meters elevation. 16 meters on the left, 32 meters on the right. Now, I'm not sure about everyone else, but I've only recently connected these dots together. So hopefully I can help some of you also connect those same dots. The 16 meter elevation shot on the left looks more obstructed than the higher shot on the right. And this has been claimed by Globers as proof of curvature. The amount of curvature seems to match up well with the amount of mirroring we see, which is an interesting phenomenon in itself. Kind of reminds me of the coincidence about the moon being 40 times smaller and 40 times closer than the sun. The key to understanding this is foreshortening. If we first add the mirror layer that we know through observational evidence obstructs objects above that waterline, we see that it doesn't appear to be enough to explain the amount obstructed we see here. It appears you have to have a segment of the water itself as part of the obstruction as well. However, if we apply the principle of double the elevation will double the viewing angle, then through foreshortening at the lower elevation, that amount of mirroring will account for how much of the bottom of the island is obstructed. So if we ignored foreshortening or compression, that mirror layer couldn't account for all the obstruction that seems to be happening. But when we include foreshortening, it makes much more sense. And the mirror layer will obstruct the compressed amount of the island missing. So in summary, the obstruction we see on Rottnest Island is caused by mirroring and foreshortening. From a lower elevation, it appears visually that the bottom of Rottnest is cut off. The culprit is the mirror layer and the reduced viewing angle causing foreshortening of the island terrain between the shore and the lighthouse. There's actually also a way to prove this for sure, which I'll try and get done shortly. If someone was to stand on Rottnest Island with a laser or a high-powered strobe torch and stood just above the shoreline on a flat, calm day like today, then another person standing halfway up Princess Street at 16 meters should see the light poking through this mirror layer. I've seen this before on my Swan River torch footage, where you see the light of the torch cutting straight through the optical obstruction layer. Anyway, I really hope you're able to connect some dots through watching this, and if you want more discussion about this, please comment below. Before I go though, I have to give a compliment to the Globers commenting on my channel lately. I've actually been amazed at the pleasant, objective and reasoned discussions we are having in the comments section. It allows everyone to actually learn from each other, which is great to see. Of course, I'm still muting many Globers every day because their first comment is something like, "How can you be so stupid?" But these type of Globers are getting less and less slowly over time. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, hit the bell and comment below. The transcript for this video is in the description for the purpose of debate and to allow awesome people like Dino to translate it to his 30,000 subs in Italy. If you wish, feel free to mirror this video on your channel.